Serious, what is the scariest theory you know about?
That theory about what happened on the missing Malaysian flight. From looking at the evidence and the most likely scenario, that being the pilot committing suicide, people have been able to piece together possible scenarios that happened on the plane. One of which is that shortly into the flight, the pilot deoxygenated the plane and accelerated to a high altitude, killing all on board very quickly. He then flew for hours and hours south before crashing the plane. It's scary to me because he would have been flying in an isolated part of the Earth, with nothing ahead of him other than the South Pole. That isolated plane, flying in the dark, with hundreds of dead strapped in their seats. The nearest city, Perth, is still asleep and only beginning to wake up. There is no one, and nothing. To think of that man, flying with all those bodies in the dark to nowhere is very scary. So selfish, and cowardly, but also very scary. There was a very interesting article in The Atlantic about it. The cabin occupants would have become incapacitated within a couple of minutes, lost consciousness, and gently died without any choking or gasping for air. The scene would have been dimly lit by the emergency lights, with the dead belted into their seats, their faces nestled in the worthless oxygen masks dangling on tubes from the ceiling.
We don't know whether the universe is in a true vacuum, lowest possible energy state, or a false vacuum, a local low, but not the lowest. If the universe is a false vacuum, at any point, at any moment, a quantum tunneling event could occur where that point spontaneously decays to a true vacuum. If that happened, a bubble would expand from that point at the speed of light that radically altered physics, instantly annihilating everything down to the subatomic level. Since it travels at sea, there'd be no warning, no way to see it coming. When it reached us, you'd just instantly blink out of existence. Even if we are in a false vacuum, such an event doesn't become likely for at least 10 to the power of 139 years, but it could happen at any moment at any point. It could have already happened and the bubble could be heading straight for us, about to end us at any t.
As Arctic permafrost melts, it will release diseases that have been frozen in the ground for thousands or tens of thousands of years, and life on Earth will have no immunity to them.
That, after decapitation, you may still be conscious and somewhat aware for at least a few seconds.
Forgive me for piss poor job I'm about to do describing it since I forget the name of it, but I recently read here on Reddit that as humans have a defense mechanism where we can see something that is non-human but mimicking a human, such as a realistic wax figure, and know that something is off. The theory was that in our evolution there was a predator that could mimic being human that we had to adapt and develop this defense mechanism for. The rebuttal to this theory was that it comes from us seeing dead bodies through sickness or disease and not blatant Neanderthal murder or death from an animal, through our evolution and learning that something is wrong, out of the ordinary and a cause for concern. Edit, it's called the uncanny valley.
It is speculated that there are overactive serial killers in the US alone. It makes you realize that many of the serial killers we know of today, Bundy, BTK, Gacy, are ultimately failed serial killers. It's like that usual suspects line, the greatest trick the devil ever pulled was convincing the world he did not exist.
The butterfly effect kind of freaks me out because it suggests that every little action could be part of a series of events that leads to something much more impactful. For example, I could drop a pencil, which distracts someone for a few seconds, causing them to miss the bus, and after a few billion seemingly insignificant events, World War III begins.
That AI, self-replicating, and immortal, has a better chance of colonizing this galaxy than biological life does. Think about it. It took hundreds of millions of years for life to get to this point. From a ball of proteins to multicellular creatures to plants and animals, took an incredible amount of time. Back in the late 1970s, I was playing with computers that had 4K of RAM. 40 years later we have incredible computing power in the palms of our hands, hundreds of gigs, and terabyte micro SD cards. Robotic manufacturing of everything from circuit boards to vehicles is the norm. Where will this tech be in a couple hundred years? Will AI be able to design and launch spacecraft that are capable of self-maintenance for the hundreds, maybe thousands, of years it would take to reach the nearest exoplanets? Once they arrive, will they be capable of self-replication? Machines don't need food and water. Machines aren't susceptible to disease or mental health issues. Machines don't seek power or authority, and don't victimize each other for amusement. What if the purpose of human life in the universe is to facilitate the creation of AI and launch its spread into the wild? This could backfire. Read the Berserker series by Fred Saberhagen for more.
The possibility that I am just a brain in a jar and my entire life is just something my brain fabricated to keep itself entertained. Everything and everyone I have ever known is a figment of imagination. Every method I can conceive to prove this idea wrong is also just part of the dream logic my brain has created to make sense of the illusion that is my existence.
So I can't remember the name of it for the life of me, but I learned this in a class one took last semester. There's a theory that says that there is a point that no intelligent life can get past, no matter what they do. Diving deeper into this, some people claim this is why we haven't found any other intelligent life forms. I think the truly scary part about it is that we won't know we are at that point until we are living it.
I saw one about the potential of a specific type of supernova that would essentially fire out beam of radiation, or some other kind of energy. If it hit Earth, we would see the entire sky covered with auroras. This is the ozone layer burning off and the last thing we would see before we all die. Guess at least we get a pretty light show to end on.
Epstein's Island has a dump site for the victims.
The hypothesis that human life was seeded by another civilization. What if they come back?
There's nothing after we die. All of our memories, experiences, thoughts, feelings, etc. just immediately blinked out of existence. And this seems like the most likely and realistic possibility to me.
Fractalization theories. Everything that exists is a tiny part of a bigger thing. In a brief summary, our galaxy is a part of space, but is space a small part of something larger? Think of a smaller object containing its own galaxy. A speck of a rock may contain its own microscopic cosmos that we cannot see. It may be composed of its own organisms smaller than a single electron, and that civilization is more advanced than we are. We know all matter contains their own gravitational force, but we don't exactly know why.
My anxiety is out of control right now. This was a bad idea.
The uncanny valley. You know, the sense of unease and discomfort you feel when you look at a near-realistic animation of a human face, like imperfect deep fakes or flawed CGI faces in movies. It implies that there might have been a point in our species' evolution where we had legit reasons to be afraid of something that looked almost human, but wasn't .
The theory that there's a jealous being watching our every move and monitoring every single thought, and if we do not please him we'll face eternal torture. And yes, I'm serious.
That the Big Bang is just a never-ending cycle. Each time the universe explodes into existence, it will inevitably end, then the Big Bang restarts. Each iteration of existence is just a rerun of the Big Bang. The theory is likely called *Big Bounce*.
It's debatable and contentious. Free will versus determination, and evidence from neuroscience that suggests people's actions occur before their thoughts. This would suggest that we have no control over our actions and are merely pawns in a bigger picture. Sarah, it's both comforting and scary.
Not so scary, but some people say we are all dead now, but our consciousness keeps repeating memories of our lives like an endless loop, and it's the reason we experience déjà vu sometimes.
That the Carrington event is actually on a 150 to 200 year repeating cycle. Goodbye electricity.
All of your ancestors are watching you right now.
Quantum suicide. The idea that there's hundreds of me that died and I'm one of the few alive in an infinite number of worlds.
May your day be filled with joy and happiness. And please remember to like, share, and subscribe for more quality content every day.